We're talking about parental rights. We're talking about the right of a parent to know if their kid shows up at school and their teacher uses a completely different name and gender for them, or if their child goes to a counselor at school and they're deeply depressed and suicidal. This is about making sure that important information about what's happening with their kids is known by parents who love them and who support them. This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Some patients like me can lose 20 to 30 pounds in a month or two. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. Huge day in Olympia yesterday. That really cannot be understated. 3 of the Let's Go Washington initiatives, no income tax, parental rights, and restoring reasonable police pursuits, they passed in the House and Senate, and in case you're curious, the governor cannot veto them. The governor has no ability to veto these initiatives, so they will become law. Here are the moments that this happened.
Having received a constitutional majority, Senate Initiative 2111 is declared pass.
Having received a constitutional majority, House Initiative 2111 is declared passed.
Having received a constitutional majority, Senate Initiative 2081 is declared passed.
Having received a constitutional majority, House Initiative 2081 is declared passed.
Having received a constitutional majority, Senate Initiative 2113 is declared passed.
Having received a constitutional majority, House Initiative 2113 is declared passed.
Yeah, love it. And I talked on the show yesterday about how so much fighting went into all of that, especially on police pursuits. Man, even last session, so much fighting to try to get it improved even a little bit. So what's going to happen now with police pursuits is it's going to go from this short list of crimes that they can pursue if they've got probable cause for, to officers can use their discretion to pursue, if it's in line with their own agency's rules and regulations, to pursue anyone suspected of committing a crime. And so to me, that's what we got to do. Car theft, for instance, is a big one that law enforcement agencies had complained about. And one of the overarching things that I think we all have to remember here is that this is about just giving power back to local police departments to make these choices. You might have some local police departments who decide that they want to stick with the law that was passed in 2021, and that they have a very restrictive police pursuit policy that works for their city, like Seattle, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. If a police department decides on its own, because of the factors in their city or whatever it is, here's what our police pursuit policy is going to be, and it works for us. But you can't tell me that Seattle Police Department's police pursuit policy is going to be the same as, some agency in the Tri-Cities. So this gives power back to local police departments. I wanted to play this clip from our friend Senator Manka Dhingra, Chair of Law and Justice, who, as you know, last session was spreading all sorts of misinformation about police pursuits. She was using faulty data that was proven to be faulty, that she never clarified. She's now running for Attorney General. And she did let this out of committee, which, I suppose she didn't have to do that. But she said on the floor that she could not support it.
I personally will be voting no on the initiative to respect the work that the law enforcement agencies in my district have done. They have always had a more restrictive pursuit policy that is consistent with best practices and the recommendations from the Bureau of Justice, and that was their policy even before state law was changed.
Yeah, but here's the thing. She's almost making the argument for the initiative. She says, I'm not going to vote for it because I respect the work that my local police department has done. Okay, but you don't respect what other police departments are doing and what their needs are going to be. This isn't about changing what your police department can and cannot do, as you know. The initiative does not change. Maybe she's talking about Redmond PD. The initiative does not change what your police department's policy is going to be. And that's fine. But what you want to do is thrust your city's policy onto police departments across the entire state. And so it's very interesting to have her almost give an argument that is justification for the initiative in the first place. All right, on the parental rights vote, I want to first show you in the Senate, it passed unanimously. The Initiative 2081 on parental rights and improving notification for parents in schools and when they have medical issues, et cetera, unanimously in the Senate. Now, I saw that and I couldn't help but to be a little, I'm happy, right? I'm glad it passed in the Senate, but I was also thoroughly annoyed because I just thought back to, the debate over 5599 last session and how they just vilified parents left and right. it was like, oh, and I know that didn't have to do with parental rights and education, but 5599 was like, oh, you don't even have to be abusing your child or neglecting your child, but we want to give that kid the power to run away from home, and we'll hide them as the state of Washington because we just don't trust that parents can be good parents to LGBTQ youth. And so, they spent the better part of the last year and a half, 2 years, just vilifying parents and putting policies and laws into place that assumed the worst in parents. And then they come and this initiative is before them and they're going to have to be on the record deciding whether we want parental rights or not. And they're all like, yay, like, screw you. I'm sorry. But, the vilification we got for Referendum 101 and being called anti-trans and all this stuff. So it's very disingenuous. They obviously know that parents are not a voting base that they should be going on the record against. I would also say Representative Lillian Ortiz Self. So while these were all being voted on, of course, there were some speeches on the floor. This is what, let me just play it and I'll talk about it on the back end. Democratic State Representative Lillian Ortiz Self.
Mr. Speaker, I met with my constituents with 6 trans students who, Mr. Speaker, when this initiative came out, were scared. They're scared because they continue to be harassed and schools do not seem safe for them. Mr. Speaker, I don't know how to answer their question when they look at me and say, why do some hate us so much? Mr. Speaker, we all need to answer that question, because our students deserve to feel safe at school. And I want you to join me, Mr. Speaker, in making sure that if any discriminatory practices show up in any of our schools, that we're going to stand up and we're going to make sure that we stop it and we protect every single student in our schools.
What are you talking about? Genuinely, what are you talking about? This parental rights initiative has nothing to do with trans youth. And she says in there, this, I'm sure, fictitious conversation that she had with 6 trans youth that told her, why do people hate us so much? We've got schools where there's trans flags hanging in classrooms year round. This is not a school system where trans youth are, and look, there could be some, but by and large, probably one of the most accepting school systems in the country when it comes to active support of LGBTQ youth. But we're not talking about that. We're